Hello and welcome to the first episode of The Colours Cast, the podcast dedicated to Actwres Girl'z, or AWG for short. My name is Gregor and I am your host. Today's episode will be an introduction to the promotion. Quick disclaimer, I do not know all about AWG. I'm a recent fan. I only started getting into it last month, but I have a good passion for it. I really do enjoy the product. I saw there was no dedicated podcast to this promotion, so I jumped on the chance of making my own. So I might get things wrong and I might mispronounce things, which I can only apologise for. Today I shall be talking about things such as top stars and what makes it different amongst other things. I would like to thank everyone on Twitter who responded to the tweet I put out. The majority of the questions came from those comments. Without further ado, let's get into the questions and let me introduce you to the crazy awesome world of Actwres Girl'z. So AWG is split into two brands, so to speak, Colours and Beginning. Both have their own ring announcers and exclusive rosters. Both run their own shows separate from each other, and then they come together, the act shows, which are joint shows. When running their own shows, they bring in outsiders to compete. This can really be anyone not signed to the two bigger companies, such as Stardom and Tokyo Joshi. People like Tsukasa Fujimoto, Yoshiko Mesaruga Mizuki, and many others have stepped inside that Actwres Girl'z ring. This isn't to say that beginning wrestlers sometimes don't show up on Colours shows, or vice versa. It does happen. In terms of the differences between the brands, I would say Colours is a bit more light-hearted, filled with colourful characters like a ninja, a devil, and a person that yells "Washoi" a lot, amongst other things. This isn't to say Colours can't be serious or Beginning can't have fun, but that's the main difference in my opinion. People may say Beginning has the better wrestlers, while Colours may have the more gimmicked wrestlers. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, Beginning has Miyuki Takase and Tei Honma, arguably the two best on the roster, and historically it's always been the Beginning wrestlers on top of AWG, with the power switching recently with Saki taking the AWG belt to Colours. But Colours has some great wrestlers in their own right, people like Saki, Hikari Shimizu, and Mari, just to name a few. In total, AWG has about 20 wrestlers on the roster according to the official website. This ranges from people with less than 1 year experience to people with over five. A lot of the roster has 3 or less years experience, although you wouldn't really be able to tell. Sometimes there is times where the inexperience may show, but for the most part it's not noticeable to me. The roster has quite a wide variety of styles. You have someone like Tei Honma, who is very technical. Mari, Miku Aono, and Hikari Shimizu like to kick hard. Then there's people like Saki and Miyuki Takase, who I would really class as all-rounders. There are people that are missing obviously, and I may do an episode dedicated to the roster while I wait for the next big show to release. A lot of the roster work for other promotions as well. So if you watch any other Joshi promotions outside of Stardom and Tokyo Joshi, chances are you've seen a member of the Actwres Girl'z roster. Currently, the champions of Actwres Girl'z are Saki, she is the AWG champion, and the tag team champions are Tei Honma and Maika Ozaki. The Colours Championship is a championship exclusive to Colours. It is usually defended with some sort of stipulation, for example, a watermelon death match, which happened recently, or something like that. The current champion is Saki. As for annual tournaments, there isn't really any annual tournaments, but they do number one contenders tournaments and stuff like that to work out the next number one contender. In terms of the top names or the best workers or wrestlers in the promotion, there's 3 that I would argue are the pillars of AWG. First is Saki, the current reigning AWG champion. Next is Miyuki Takase, the longest reigning champion in history. And lastly is Tei Honma, one half of the tag team champions, and is currently the only person from the first show still on this roster. Those are the best wrestlers in my opinion. Just based on pure in-ring, I would say Tei Honma and Miyuki Takase are probably the best. They also have very good other wrestlers, such as people like Saki, Miku Aono, Hikari Shimizu, Mari, Kakeru Sekiguchi, and Misa Matsui, just to name a few. I like all of the roster, but these are the ones that really stand out to me. I was asked what the difference between Actwres Girl'z and Action Ring Girls are. I think it's Action Ring Girls is more theatre-based wrestling. It's acting. It's a performance. It isn't really wrestling, so to speak, but it's acting based around wrestling. And, people from the AWG roster appear there, and some play characters. Mari plays the head of the Space Pirates, so there's crossover between the two. I was asked what makes the AWG different to other promotions, and honestly, the thing for me is the vibe. The vibe is just different, it's really super chill to be honest. The show usually opens with the rosters dancing, which is fun, and then, the typical card, you've got a good undercard, and then the main events really are places where, you would see them in other places because they're really good. There are obviously a couple other things, however, such as, first of all, I think it's really bingeable. Sometimes their upload schedule isn't, they're usually a couple shows behind, so usually I wait until there's a couple shows and then it's just I binge them, because a lot of the smaller shows don't last over an hour and a half. Some even clock in under an hour. Recently they had 2 Colours shows, which was a tournament on both shows, and they only came in at 58 minutes. It's something that, including the vibe, you can just sit and watch multiple shows a day. I couldn't find myself doing it with really any other promotion other than AWG. I could sit and watch 2 or 3, 4 shows a day. It's something that always puts a smile on my face. And, if you do that in wrestling, I think you're doing a good job. Like, if I'm sitting watching the matches with a smile on my face, that's me entertained. A lot of them have backgrounds in entertainment, so they are very good at that side. I just want to be entertained by the wrestlers, and I want to be invested in them. The stories, the struggles, Yes, you can pull out 100 Canadian destroyers, but that might not be that's not for me. Personally, I just want to be invested in your stories. Sell me on your dreams. Sell me on your struggle. Make me be invested in you. And that will make me very happy. The emotional attachment to the wrestlers is what makes wrestling special. But yeah, AWG's given me that. I was really invested in the most recent title match between Saki and Misa Matsui. I already knew the result coming into it, but Misa sold me on every single near fall and stuff like that, and it was just it's my favourite women's match this year. And this isn't me being biased because I run an AWG podcast or anything. It's the truth. Anyway, it was one of my favourite matches this year. So there are a couple of things that make them different. Mix that lightheartedness and then the hard-hitting action that they bring, and really it's a package that not many Joshi companies can really rival. So after I watched the first Kirkin show, I really became, I don't know if obsessed is the right word, but they took over my wrestling time a whole lot. I was hooked. I signed up for the streaming service straight away and I binged a lot of their shows. So how did that happen? Honestly, not really too sure. I really liked the vibe for starters. I thought the vibe was great. And then the wrestling itself was good. I had such a good time watching these matches. People like Tai Honma blew my mind. I hadn't heard of her before at all. And I started watching Joshi in 2019, so I'm not a big, long fan. But I hadn't heard of her. It felt like I discovered a secret that I shouldn't have, to be honest. I felt like after the whole promotion, I'd heard bits and praises on my Twitter timeline, but I didn't think anything about it. But as soon as I watched the first show, it was special. I finally got the hype. So I continued to binge and watch the shows, and boom, now I have a podcast about it. I don't know if I answered the question that I was asked, but that's the best way I can really describe it. The title match, like previously mentioned, title match between Saki and Misa Matsui, really solidified my love for AWG. I really do feel like it's the best kept secret in wrestling. In terms of how to watch, there's a couple of ways you can watch their shows. Sometimes their shows are on Nico Pro. The other way is to buy their DVDs, because almost every single show ends up on DVDs. The last option is, and the one I recommend, is sign up to the streaming service, actwresgirlz.net. It's 1,000 yen a month, which comes out about £6.50 or $9 at the time of recording. While there's a delay between the shows, usually anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks between the show happening and it going up on the service, it is worth the wait. The video quality is the best video quality I've seen on any streaming service. There's multiple cameras on the shows as well, so you're not going to just get a hard cam show. There's going to be at least 2 cameras. While there isn't any subtitles or commentary, it might make it hard to follow. It really isn't, because it's usually just simple stuff. It's usually simple enough to follow along. And it works well on mobile. I've recently watched it on mobile for the first time, and it worked really well. The back library is also massive. They've got shows and matches dating back, they've got shows dating back to 2016, I think, and there's a couple matches from 2015 where they've put like an on-and-offer show or something like that. Well, I think it's about time I was wrapping this up. These aren't going to be long episodes. These podcasts aren't going to be over hours long and stuff like that. I am solo hosting it, so I just want to condense it into 15, 20-minute episodes. So yeah, this has been the first episode of the Colours Cast. I hope you all enjoyed this. Maybe you learned something. Maybe now you want to check out AWG, which would be awesome. Let me know what your thoughts about the podcast. Any feedback would be appreciated. Like I said, this is my first time doing this solo, so I was quite nervous about it. So I hope I've done alright. I hope you've enjoyed your time. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time and all that. So I hope you really have enjoyed it. You can follow me on my personal Twitter account at Grieger_AWRC, or you can follow this podcast account on at The Colours Cast, both on Twitter. And I will catch you on the flip side. So see you later.